Today we're going to finish up our Georgia O'Keeffe desert landscape. Now when you get your painting back, we don't have paint out today to finish it, but we do have oil pastels, which work really well with paint. So the first thing I'm going to do is look and see if there are any white areas left on my paper. If there are, I'm going to use the oil pastels to fill them in. Now if you color with pastels lightly, they look like crayon, but if you push really, really hard, they get really bright and look like paint. So if you're using them to fill in white areas, make sure that you're pushing hard so that the colors will match what you have already painted on your paper. The second thing I like to use pastels for is fixing any mistakes. So if there's a color that I painted on my paper that I don't really like, I can use my oil pastels and color right over it to fix those areas. Like I wanted the bottom part of my mountain to be a little more in shadow. So I'm just gonna push pretty hard with this blue to darken up the bottom part of my mountain so that it looks different from the top part. There we go. I like how that looks better. And then I'm gonna fade it as I come up here. So I'm gonna use some of those lighter kind of textured-y crayon coloring looks to blend it out a little bit. And maybe I'll add a little extra texture to my mountain as well, so it all kind of works together. Let's see, I'll put some shadow on this side. So you can use your pastels to fix anything that you didn't really like how it turned out with your paint. Now the last thing that I like to do is my favorite thing actually, and that is add details to your picture. So one thing that I did not do with paint was add the little tiny plants that grow in the desert. So I have selected several green colors, but you can use any color you want. And I'm gonna use these pastels to create my plants. So how I like to do the little bushes that grow in the desert is I sort of just use several zigzag lines. But when I'm in the foreground, I make them pretty big. When I'm in the background, I make them rather small so that it looks like they're actually getting far away. And on these middle hills, they're gonna be kind of medium-sized. And I don't ever wanna use just one color. I usually like to blend in a few different colors. I like the way this bright green looks on the top. I also like to add in a little bit of this minty green color. And sometimes at the bottom, I even add in just a little bit of black. But like I said, you can choose whatever colors you want. I'll even put a little shadow on the right-hand side so that they look like they're really sitting on the ground in the desert. So I'm just gonna keep on going and adding any plants or clouds or whatever else I think my picture needs. As you can see, I really like to add pastel to my paintings, but you can add as little or as much as you want. It's up to you and whatever you think your painting needs. Now the last step is going to be adding our ghost ranch to an area of our desert, which I kind of left this area blank because that's where I'm planning to put my house. Now we have some choices here. You could simply cut out your house and glue it onto the paper, but I wanted my house to look like it was setting into the desert a little bit more. So I'm going to just cut out my house along the top, and I'm gonna leave the bottom connected. Once we have our house cut out, I am actually going to cut on one of the lines where I want my house to go. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and put it on this one. So I'm just gonna cut in between this pink and green, and I'm gonna carefully cut around my little bush here that I drew. And I'm not cutting anything out, I'm just cutting on the line. Just like this. Just cutting on that green line. All right, so once we have this, I'm gonna take my drawing and I'm gonna sneak it in there wherever I want it to go. So I thought that this looked a little bit better because the hill looks like it's in front of the house, just like it would in real life. So I'm gonna poke it down to where I think it needs to go, or if I want it up a little bit, I could maybe draw the doors taller. I might have to adjust that. But I think I want it kind of nestled down into the desert, just like so. Then I'm gonna take my glue, and while my house is still in there, right where I want it, there we go. I think I like it right there. Then I'm gonna add a few little drops of glue to the back. Not too many, just a few. And then I'm gonna hold it down for a few seconds. Make sure you don't rub because that will smear your pastel. And really, it's a good idea to clean the pastel off your hands the best you can with a towel before you start handling your house. Once your glue is dried a little bit, we can flip this over and add a little bit of masking tape to the edge right where we cut it. So I'm just gonna put that tape right on the edge so that it will make that paper kind of like one piece again, just like so. And then it's like we didn't even cut it. If you need to add a little bit of glue underneath these front pieces, that works too. Just make sure you don't add too much so that it's squeezing out the sides. Once you are happy with your oil pastel and the placement of your house, we're gonna leave our projects to dry.